Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Righteous Force, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Refracted Curvature, Adam, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hey.
What's up, Nathan?
Greetings from Bermuda.
Up and away! I'm going on a parabolic arc to surface level.
Any evidence?
afternoon, everyone.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure that we're all breathing without a container for the gas to press upon?
Negative.
Impossible.
Nonsense.
Well, if you have an apparent acceleration, then maybe.
Okay, so
Probably not.
If it was no,
Listen.
if we could test it, then I wouldn't be able to tell you about it.
Yeah, listen, we're at a point where people are actually literally telling me that an apparent acceleration is an acceleration.
hold on, apparent acceleration. Hold on. When you say apparent, that would be appearing but not actually happening. So if you've got an apparent drift in Coriolis effect, it's the illusion of drift when one doesn't actually occur. So if you've got an apparent acceleration, that would mean one that seems to happen but doesn't really happen.
Yeah, it's been likened. It's literally been likened to and been sit alongside, literally, what I was told, pseudo forces. So literally, they're going to claim that a pseudo force is.
That's correct.
Yeah,
a not actual acceleration would be a pseudo acceleration, meaning a sham acceleration, a fake acceleration, a not really acceleration.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is people are out there trying to make this pseudo acceleration, this apparent acceleration. They're trying to make themselves believe that it's an actual acceleration. And it's created by, and the pseudo force is like an actual force that creates this actual acceleration. That's literally where we're at. So that's what they're trying to make themselves believe at.
I'd like to call on.
Yeah,
That would be the efficacious fallacy.
Are you talking about gravity? Because, you know, in George Wooster's paraphrased terminology, you've got a not actual force that you can think of as a force but isn't really a force. That's what you end up with. That's what you're describing, right?
Yeah, because you asked, is there any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container? And I said, well, apparent accelerations, maybe, you know, because that's literally the answer now.
I don't understand how that has anything whatsoever to do with having gas pressure without a container, though, Brian. Maybe you can link these two for me on behalf of the anti-flat earthers that have put this to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're putting it to more than me. The claim always was that we have gas pressure due to a force of gravity. Now, after 7 years, they're starting to accept that gravity is not a force, but now they're trying to create a force out of pseudo forces and apparent accelerations to keep the claim that we have gas pressure being created by a force of gravity.
How does an apparent or pseudo or fictitious acceleration that you haven't actually detailed to me yet, how does that achieve gas pressure without a container?
Well, it doesn't. But if you need to believe that it does, and you're trying to work within Einstein's general relativity, and you need to believe that even though within his relativity he only accounts for one mass, whatever mass is, at a time, and weight is not accounted for, and the acceleration with detailed Earth-based acceleration is only apparent within his general relativity model. But if you need to believe that gas pressure is created via a pseudo force creating an apparent acceleration, then that's what you will believe.
But believing that gas pressure is achieved by a pseudo acceleration, that isn't how gas pressure is achieved. Gas pressure is the force exerted on the walls of its container. That's what gas pressure is. It's not going to ever be defined as the pseudo force created on a gas to create containment, because you need an area. The area is the area inside the volume of containment that you have, and the gas pressure is the force the gas exerts on the walls of its container. So where's this defined gas pressure coming from when they say it's as a result of a not actual force that's a apparent motion that we don't experience? How's this got anything to do with containment of gas pressure?
Nathan, when they want to deny a container, any kind of container, and one that the Bible specifically talks about, the firmament, they're going to have to say it's something else doing it. And that's what Brian's trying to say.
Okay, but saying it's something else giving you pressure as opposed to what gas pressure is doesn't wash. Like
That doesn't
redefining
matter to
what
them.
gas pressure is and then saying I can achieve my redefinition of gas pressure because I redefine gas pressure as being a pseudo-accelerative force creating containment. What?
Yeah, well,
so that's not the definition of gas pressure, though, is it?
Well, I have people on the globe side who are literally avoiding learning about Einstein's equivalence principle. They're literally avoiding it because it takes away the downward force. Now, technically, if they learned it, they could then start trying to use it as an argument for gas pressure. But they literally won't even learn it because it means there is no downward force. The downward, what they think is a downward acceleration, once they accept Einstein's general relativity and his equivalence principle, which is part of it, right? That means they can't then after that claim that weight has anything to do with gravity or that objects go down, because they don't in Einstein's relativity model, and especially involving his equivalence principle. But
Is that
I have
because...
people, just one second, I have people who are doing their best to not even learn about his equivalence principle.
Brian, is that because... I'm sorry.
Just give me a second.
A sense of pun.
Because,
hold on,
yeah,
Ted.
what they need to do is now manufacture some other way for gas pressure to be created via gravity, while also having to accept that gravity is not a force, and then continue denying that gas pressure requires a containment.
Gotcha. That's the problem, though, isn't it? So redefining what gas pressure is to then try and explain how a not actual force can give them a force that creates containment when they're denying containment. The definition of gas pressure is merely the force it exerts on the walls of its containment, not a downward acceleration force when it's not actually a force, but you can think of it as a force. That's not what gas pressure is.
Brian,
no.
For clarity, is that because Einstein's principle is the Earth is moving up?
Yes. Einstein's equivalence principle states that the Earth is always at the globe Earth, right? That's how they describe it. The globe Earth is always expanding out in all directions, but space-time is pulling in against it to counteract it.
So net force zero, like nothing to see. Yeah, it's just total bollocks. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Just quickly on that. That sounds like a conflation. Gas behavior is one thing. They're not trying to emulate gas behavior. They're trying to emulate the effects of a container by the application of a force. That makes sense. So they're trying to reduce the overall speed of the particles to give the effect of gas pressure without a container by a removal of molecular speeds within the gas particles. So it's not actually replicating gas behavior. If anything, they're trying to replicate the container with forces.
Right. So let's explain the problem. Why is this occurring? If anybody's watching going, I'm struggling to follow along with this. Well, it's very simple. On Earth, we breathe gas pressure. To have gas pressure, we must have containment. And the heliocentric model has gas pressure without containment. And it must be without containment because you've got rocket ships travelling into the sky vacuum, the availability of volume, the space that the gas could fill. So they have to come up with an explanation for how you can have gas pressure with a sky vacuum for the rockets to still be able to travel through the gas pressure into the vacuum. Obviously, you can't have a barrier there because that would mean rockets couldn't go through the barrier to have the gas pressure. So they ignore the definition of what gas pressure actually is and try and come up with an explanation how forces can hold the gas to Earth, enabling them to still have rockets leaving through the gas pressure that's being held here by a force, but can be negated by a rocket. Total nonsense. Space.
Sounds like a bunch of shite to me.
Hold on, Neil. Space, what they are actually trying to defend in this nonsense argument about forces creating gas pressure, what they're actually doing is denying what gas pressure is to retain the fake place they think rockets travel to, called outer space. So for clarity, outer space is fake. Because if it was real, the gas pressure we are breathing would never have been achieved. It would have dissipated into the volume it has to fill, which would be outer space. Because we have gas pressure here and we're all breathing quite happily, it means that there is no availability of volume called outer space that gas could and would fill. It hasn't. We're still breathing. We must be contained. Therefore, no travel to space, no outer space. Outer space is fake. Go on, Neil.
Well, what I was going to say, I'm sorry, Neil, but now that we've established that a container is the antecedent for gas pressure, the next part is the gas pressure gradient. The antecedent for that would be gas pressure, would it not be?
Yeah. So for gas pressure to achieve gas pressure gradation, you first have gas pressure, then you can have a gas pressure gradient. It's still got the antecedent consequent relationship that you describe, with containment being the antecedent for gas pressure.
Right, but once you establish that, your line of thinking can go on to, well, if we have a gas pressure gradient, therefore we must have gas pressure, and the only way to get gas pressure is with a container.
Correct.
Hey, John, you were talking about a certain spark plug in a certain vehicle that isn't allowing gas pressure to occur so your car could accelerate. Is that something like that?
Yes, it is. It's extremely like that. So now I have a miss in my engine.
What BMW stands for? Break my windows.
One thing I want your generation to know: the Earth is a closed system. You cannot leave the Earth. Said by Bill Nye. A little bit weird. Good morning, guys.
So wait, you're saying there's no walls to this globe anywhere?
There's no what?
There's no walls around this globe? So how are we breathing then if there's no walls, right? It's got to be containment.
No, it's not that logical step. It's not, well, how are we breathing if we don't have any containment for the gas pressure? No, that isn't the logical step. Because that leads you to the anti-flat earth mechanism of figuring out how a force can be container. It isn't.
That's a bit like, why do I see the
I'm
clock?
saying there has to be walls.
A space-time container.
Okay,
Right?
to answer Neil.
Space-time
Okay, everyone
container.
else, why are you all stepping on Neil? Makes a change. Right, you're saying the wall must have the globe must have walls, and it doesn't. Yeah, it's because it's fake. It's not real. They're lying to us. But yeah, for the gas pressures that we all breathe and enjoy, there must be containment. Now, if you're saying I want to retain the globe paradigm whilst making that assertion, then the globe must have walls, i.e. containment for the gas pressure we're breathing around the globe. We're not on a globe. You can't get elevation angle measurements from a curved surface, and navigation is done flat. So, any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? If not, we've got a flat Earth, and we must have containment.
Yeah, but Arwen has a point. They're going to go and say it's space-time is doing it.
Yeah, it's
Something
a
that's not
space-time
real.
barrier.
Space-time's conceptual.
Like the carbon line.
No,
there's
It's not
this
doing anything.
wall,
It's not doing
non-
anything. It's
so-
not going to do anything. It's conceptual. It's a fourth dimensional geometry. It doesn't do anything.
Yes, it does.
The
No, it does
bending,
not.
hold on, the bending of a concept cannot cause gas pressure to be maintained. I'm sorry.
You don't know that, Neil.
Yeah, I do. Concepts don't... Show me time, then show me it bending.
I can't. It's in a conceptual medium. It's not in our 3D normal reality, but that doesn't mean it can't do anything.
Shout out to Hillside, says good morning, gentlemen, and gives us a peace sign. No,
Come on, Hillside.
geometries and concepts don't do anything. They're not physical. They're conceptual.
This will
Maybe the
lead to a-
container wall is simply in another dimension. I mean, what's so complicated about this?
Show me dimensions.
No.
What do you mean no? You're describing geometry. A fourth dimensional geometry would be pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's Einsteinian time bending, which is what you're appealing to as doing something. Doesn't matter what you're appealing to it as doing. It doesn't do anything. It's a conceptual framework, a geometry.
That was my point in saying Arwen said it the way they say it now. It just can't prove it, and it's a concept. So it's another reach for another answer than admitting to what does cause gas pressure.
Well, if they could show it to me on a small level, show me the bending of space-time causing gas pressure to be contained.
No.
area.
No, Neil takes it to that step that they need. No, you're not going to be showing me the concept of something that can't do anything causing anything else, because it can't do anything. So you're not going to establish it primarily with a causal relationship to an effect when it has no causal influence. It's a geometry.
Can I give a little bit of a history lesson? When Einstein came along with his general relativity and special relativity prior to that model, the globe and heliocentric model was heading for implosion because the expansion they needed, they were hitting a brick wall with. So when he came along, even though his special and general relativity basically makes absolutely zero sense, it was good enough for heliocentrism to expand out their crazy model. And then when his equation of E equals MC squared, when they started looking at that, and it turned out that through what is now known as hydrogen fusion reaction, that it has some relevance, even though the equation itself is totally flawed because it has things like mass in it and speed of light, blah, blah, blah. The general underlying simplicity of it is matter and energy are interlinked, right? That meant they could hold up his general relativity up in the air even higher as if it was something brilliant. But what you have out there is you have a whole generation after generation at the moment of people who think gravity is still a force. They don't even know that things like quantum mechanics debunked Einstein decades ago. They have never even gotten to Einstein. They haven't gotten to general relativity yet, the everyday public. They still think it's a force. They don't even know that it's not even it's not been a force officially in the higher rankings of pseudoscience and mainstream pseudoscience since 1915. So they don't even know that this force is out the window since 1915. They don't even know that Einstein's relativity has been attacked by other heliocentrists and shown to not work and different things as well since then. And then quantum mechanics debunks his which is what he needs, which is his two-way speed of light claim. And like they don't even realize, and most of the people we deal with still think Newtonian mechanics hold solid when that was also debunked. We're dealing with just high levels of ignorance. I'm not saying the ordinary people out there are all ignorant. They just don't know any better. I know it's kind
No,
of
they are. You don't have
stupid.
to apologise for your statement. It's true, but people are kept in ignorance. It's not their own fault.
Yeah.
Because they're educated in a Newtonian, non-Einsteinian force of gravity. And when they want to appeal to containment, which is what this general discussion's about, we will eventually get to you, Arwin, because this conversation has been brought about by the fact that you were talking about one of the fake rockets that you said was too heavy to go up or something, which expanded into me saying, oh, well, when I saw the rockets on display, they were just hollow, empty things held together with ratchet straps. So you don't really know what they're sending up. But ultimately, where are they sending them? Well, they're definitely not going to space, are they? Because outer space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Therefore, where else can they go other than, well, the area they call the Bermuda Triangle? That's where they go. They can't go anywhere else. That was your cue, Armin.
Wait, Brian said quantum mechanics. There's a lot of flat earthers that don't believe quantum mechanics is real.
Quantum mechanics is not a believe subject.
I agree.
A lot of flat earthers out there mix up what is actual quantum mechanics as opposed to people taking the word quantum and using it to let's say, beef up their theories or their whatever, colloquial theories. That when it comes down to actual quantum mechanics, it's all about proving or disproving of whatever. That's what it's about.
Brian, what specifically, in a short summary, how and why quantum mechanics disagrees or goes against Einstein?
Well, quantum mechanics showed that light doesn't have a finite speed. Basically, I say Einstein, the two-way speed of light calculation, right, is also known and has been known for a long while now. I only found this out off of I can't remember the man's Veritasium's video, whenever it was a few years ago, that it's known as Einstein's convention, because he admittedly uses it knowing that he doesn't actually have a speed of light, but he needed it for his general relativity, so he just used it anyway, even though he admitted himself that well, we just kind of agree on. It's an agreed on upon convention. So Einstein has literally admitted that part of his general relativity is total and utter bogus. So there wasn't even happened to debunk, if you know what I mean.
You had said in the past it was 4 assumptions and 2 calculations, or was it the other way?
Yeah, there was 4 pre-assumptions and 2 averages is what goes into the two-way speed of light claim.
Right.
Because it also,
I was just going to say that sounds like a calculation, not a convention. Maybe they use convention so they can tie it to measurement, but it just sounds like a calculation to me.
Well, in the end, that's all it is, because you have to first pre-assume that the Earth is a globe of a particular size. Then you have to pre-assume that the Sun is a star of a particular size. Then you have to pre-assume that the Earth rotates around or orbits around the Sun. But then they have to pre-assume that Kepler's analemma was correct, right? And then they have to then use the average radius of their globe Earth, because there's 2 radii. Not really, there isn't really. That's a lot of nonsense. But they have to say there is the average radius of their globe radii, and the average distance between the Sun, the globe Earth, and the heliocentric Sun over a 12-month period. Those 6 things have to start at the start of the two-way speed of light claim calculation. So it's all just a calculation based on we believe it's a globe and we're in a heliocentric space.
Well, they have another one of these things that's pretty obvious to all of us. It's the radius of the Earth and the geometric horizon, it's a thought experiment from a calculation that if you live on a sphere with a radius of 3959, every horizon distance can be no further than 1.22 miles by the square root of the observer's height feet. So the whole point is it's supposed to be there if we're on the globe, but because we're on the globe, it's a calculation. Then when you say, where is it? Well, refraction. So it's just another thing they have to make up to assume you're on the globe, but it's never there to be measured.
Well, I think it's pretty clever to say Einstein's convention, because like the foot or the meter, they're conventions, you know. But you're tying a concept to reality, and that gives you the measurement. So they're trying to say that they've measured this somehow by calling it Einstein's convention, which they obviously haven't.
Well, if you look at... sorry.
No, I was going to say, if we have an agreed upon convention for measurement, and then you're going to say, by measurement, the Earth's horizon, which is Earth curve, has to be here, okay, fine. Then let's use that agreed upon convention, tape measure, whatever you want to call it, and see if it's there. Well, it's not there. So now, is the convention wrong in the way we measured it, or is the fact that you're looking for Earth curve when it's not there wrong?
Well, just on that two-way speed of light thing, what they mostly start trying to point at these days is a guy called Fizeau. I can't remember when this guy did this thing, but he used less than a 10-mile return. So it was, I think, around just under 5 miles one way and just under 5 miles back. And he had like a rotary type situation. I think of gears where there is holes for light to come through, and I won't go into all the details. But this guy, I made a mistake recently, and I was corrected on it by one of the ballers. I said that a second was made up of 1,000 microseconds. But I made a mistake in my memory. And when I was corrected on it, I was happy to be corrected on it. Because there's actually not 1,000 microseconds in a second. There's 1 million microseconds in a second. And I think because it was so ridiculous that this guy Fizeau supposedly measured a tiny amount of this 1 million within 1 second. That's what the claim is. I worked it out before. I went through the maths. It was kind of awkward, but I did it using a few different. I won't go into. I can't even. I'd have to look at it. I have it upstairs on my computer. What I did, but he worked it out. Like he would have got like 16 or something ridiculous, or 360 microseconds. He would have measured 360 microseconds out of 1 million microseconds within 1 second. This is the claim. This is what they're actually latching onto to try and avoid where the origins of it came from. This guy Fizeau measured like a tiny. If you think about like what 1 light year would be, and think about measuring like out of 1 million microseconds within a second. It's such a tiny amount. It's so unbelievably tiny. I'd say computers would have their work cut out to get it correct. Sorry.
That would be so difficult. You'd have to second guess yourself each time.
Well, computers can go to nanoseconds. I know that, but I don't think he was using a computer. So yeah, that would be a problem. Yeah, that'd be a problem. The thing I want to get back to about the convention, because 10th brought it up, like the measurement to the horizon is a dip angle measurement, but it's a differential between two flat planes, and then they assume the horizon is Earth curve. So the problem with that is in the assumption. And so there's actually a measurement there. It's just not what they think they're measuring.
Right, but that's how when you say, well, let me pose it to you this way, because you're onto it. Well, how'd you come up with 3959 as your radius of this Earth?
Well, we assumed it was a ball, after we took flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris.
The first part, yeah, the first part is always first. Well, since we live on a sphere, the shadow from the stick or the mountain from Biruni, right? The whole point is you have to assume you're a sphere to make a radius out of it. But you can get the same shadow and same everything from a flat plane.
Well, you can't. The thing is, if you assume it's a sphere, you can't get the angle measurements. So that's why they use the flat plane, and then they make false assumptions.
No, I get it, but they'll say the Earth is curving because that's what's causing it. Because light now has to come in straight. Because see, they go so out of their way to assume you're a sphere that the angle measurements destroy them right away because you can't get a elevation angle from a curved surface. But if you assume you're a sphere and sunlight's coming in straight, then you could go into this make-believe world of yours that could never be verified.
Well, even if you assume that sunlight is coming in parallel, you still need a flat plane to measure the angles to assert it's parallel.
How ridiculous is it to assume the thing that you just got angles from is something that you wouldn't be able to get an angle from?
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Any evidence of the R value?
How ridiculous is that?
Any evidence of the R value? Because we're on the topic.
Well, just while we're on the topic and it's connected to it, I literally responded just before I came on the show, I'd say about 7 minutes before I joined the show, to somebody claiming that the dip correction is a dip to a refracted globe horizon. Now, this would mean, if you think about that claim, right, that would mean that over a horizontal body of water, that someone standing on the deck of a ship, that their eye line would be at the height of the water underneath the boat at all times. So their eye line and the water underneath the boat would always be exactly the same height, at the same level. So you could never, ever, basically what it means is that if you think about that claim that the dip to the horizon is a dip to Earth curve, you're literally stating that depression angles don't exist, aren't you? That's what you're stating.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because when they use the bubble sextant, they have to have a fictitious horizon, and that horizon is baseline to infinity. And then when you use the Earth's horizon with the Mariner sextant, it has, and it gives you the same angle measurement, that has to match. It can't be any different. So it's over for those guys.
Well, what I'm saying is the dip, like, you know, the way the dip is only a dip between two parallel horizontals, the eye line and the sea line underneath the water, right? The sea surface underneath the water.
Right.
What if I want to beg the question and think that because my eye line is higher than the water, and that means my eye line is higher than the horizon I see, and that the reason for that is that because I'm on a globe, that would mean that over a flat surface, over a horizontal sea surface, that would mean that my eye line would have to always be in line with the water. That a depression angle can't exist because I believe I'm on a globe, so a depression angle can't exist. If you understand what I mean. The angle is always to the starting of our curve. It's never just a depression angle between two horizontal parallels.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. How many times have we shown the citations, and even QE called it the rubber ducky? So if you're on the water with your eye line, do you do a dip correction?
No, there's no need for height of eye correction or dip correction if you are if your eye line is at the water line.
That's right. No. And they even say it. So that means the Earth is the same as that fictitious horizontal that's a baseline to infinity on the surface of the water. It's over right there. It's instantly over for them.
Yeah, when you say baseline to infinity, you're saying that it goes out in a flat plane from where you're at.
That's right. Baseline to infinity is just saying, yeah, we've got a flat Earth. That's our baseline. Base being starting point.
So that's the confession.
Yeah. Well, it's a requirement. It's a prerequisite. In order to have a globe, you've got to have a flat Earth first. Do we get to the elevation angle actual answer? Any evidence you can have an elevation angle measurement?
That's what they're all saying, Nathan. Sorry.
I'll just ask my question again. Why, after getting angles off of something, would you assume that that something is something that you can't get angles off of in the first place?
Well, then it's paradoxical.
Ridiculous.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun? As we're asking.
Negative.
In the sky.
Well, to Chocolate's answer, isn't that what Brian covered with Einstein's special and then general relativity? Was they saw it was all falling apart, so they have to go into space-time bending in order to take it out of the measurable world that we're in.
10th man, when this was going on, where were the minds of the times? Where were the knowledgeable people?
They
where
were
were
fighting
the scientists?
No, they were fighting it, Neil. I have tons of research of people arguing with these people, just like our channel here argues with them. Tons of it. It was being taught in schools that Earth was flat and a irregular plane in the 1920s. Just because they don't make that material available to us unless you go research it, doesn't mean people weren't fighting it.
Yeah, I don't remember being taught about Auguste Piccard going up in his balloon and saying, "Oh, looks like a flat disk with an upturned edge." I don't remember that in school. They kind of kept that hidden away. But they made sure to tell us all about, Columbus being scared that he's going to go over the edge.
Exactly, and they all laughed, right, Chocolate? And
Yep.
everybody laughed, right? Like I was saying the other day.
Well, Auguste Piccard's grandson is supposedly his grandson is in charge of his Wikipedia page, and he changed what he's supposedly, if it is his grandson, changed what his grandfather would have said to "I saw a globe Earth." He changed what Auguste Piccard said, which was that he saw a huge flat disk with upturned edges.
How the hell did he do that when that was like literally published in like Popular Science back then? What was it, like 36 or something like that?
Well, see, the way it works is if your grandfather says something, you can go back in the citation and change it because of your bloodline.
Well, I'm saying that.
Go on, Chocolate.
See, now you got me curious. Now I want to go look it up because I remember seeing that in a Popular Science magazine from like 36 or something like that.
That's correct.
36 to 37.
No, you're right. I remember that.
That would still exist. That would still exist. But when people look up who Auguste Piccard is, the first thing they're going to find is Wikipedia. They're going to go in there and they're going to see that he supposedly said he went up and saw the curve of the globe Earth. They changed it a couple of years ago.
You know who was
That's adorable.
You know who was one of the attendees of that big conference that Lemaitre was at, Einstein was at? It was Auguste Piccard.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, he was a physicist of his time, as far as I know.
Yeah, but then afterwards, he went and did that balloon flight and said that. So,
No.
I mean, it's very interesting.
No, Piccard was he was the next generation Starship Enterprise captain. What are you talking about?
That's probably
Captain
who they
Piccard.
named it after. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to high altitude balloons, I think he went up 14 miles. Now, obviously, there's balloons go up higher than that. But I mean, if you went up there and you could see with your own eyes, I mean, he had a diving bell, which means there was windows, but there would have been that thick curved glass within the windows. And even with that, he was even able to see that, it was a big flat disk with upturned edges. So, I mean, technically, that's really all anyone would need to know, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? As far as proof of what the Earth is and is not, you'd have to go, well, it can't be a globe if it appears to be a flat disk with upturned edges from 14 miles above.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem.
Well, all of my life has presented itself as obviously flat and motionless.
Did you say emotionless?
No, motionless. Well, unless there's an emotionless bicycle.
The ether bike.
Yeah, the ether bike.
Oh God, let's not. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, but as you were saying, you're right, Chocolate. It presents itself flat and motionless, but we're taught in school that we're not on a flat and motionless plane, but we're on a spinning water ball. For gravity holding us to the Earth. And thank God for gravity, because if it wasn't there, we'd be flying off into space.
Yeah, and we're taught in school that you can be whoever you want to be each day versus the day before. You don't believe everything you're taught in school.
But why are we not all orbiting the Earth, though? Like, when did gravity what's this decision making? Did gravity flip a coin and said, these things I'm going to make orbit? Like the moon, that's definitely going to orbit the Earth. But this rock that I pick up, when I drop it, it's definitely going to go down because, yeah. When is that decision made? Is what I want to know.
I just want to say that Neil did answer your question, Nathan.
Did he?
Yeah, he said no.
Oh, right, okay.
Nathan, you've been doing your best to get the housekeeping questions out, and they're getting very little traction. People are just taking whatever question you ask, and they go, yeah, and I'll tell you something else, and they start talking about whatever they want to talk about. And I've been doing it too.
But I did say negative. The excellent
I am
line
seeing
core,
here that
any evidence, I said negative.
Go on, whoever that was, Creation Bear.
I mean, we might have to readjust the question because apparently the core, this is a quote, isn't a boring blob of iron after all.
What is it?
Hold on, let's find out what they made it themselves. True, because they made it themselves, but go on.
In fact, yeah, I mean, they just they're just changing the story as they go, but a new hidden world discovered in Earth's inner core.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was my cousin.
What a whole new world.
Yeah, so they don't even know what's under there anymore.
Did you say a brave new world?
No, he said a whole new world.
hidden
And my
world.
question is, hold on, how did they discover this?
They just
Same way
reran
they
the
discovered
simulations, I think.
Sorry, Creation Bear, I stepped on it.
No, they just redid the simulation, and this one seemed cooler, I think. So.
Yeah, well, it's the same way
DLC for the core.
It's the same way they discovered everything else. Just make it up.
Yeah, it's the
Michael
core's
Kahn's-
new DLC. Go
Michael Kahn's message, sorry, just to interrupt. It says, Job 38:14, the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment. Beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds spherical to me.
I don't think we have the actual Earth curve question yet, so any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Well, the best I got is an extended globe horizon that is physically extended.
Wait, extended? I thought boats and buildings were supposed to be blocked by it.
Like Go-Go Gadget Earth curve?
Yeah.
No, more like Stretch Armstrong.
No, you know the way you have a balloon and you blow it up. Well, if you just measure its size, right, when you blow it up, and then blow it up even bigger, and then blow it up even bigger again if you want to, or even bigger again if you want to. Well, that's 7/6R. That's globe radius refraction, where they literally make it bigger than it really is, and it isn't really anything that doesn't exist.
Can I have a package of 7/6R balloons, please?
But no matter how much they blow up the dingleberry, it'll still be below surface level.
Right, they're going to need that differential, and it's going to have that, what did you call it earlier? Infinitely expanding baseline. Yeah, they're going to need a flat Earth for that.
Yeah, the geometric horizon and the refracted horizon all exist below surface level.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, that's something I'm glad we got to, because I actually am going to say something about that topic. I want to be unpopular for saying this, but I've alluded to it in the past, but I have to say it. We can keep on trying to hold them to what is the Coriolis effect. But their actual claim, and I've heard it from the mainstream, the claim now is that what they call Coriolis, now I know we've labeled it, Nathan, you coined it Globiolis in the past, but their claim is a north to south claim. It's not Coriolis effect. It's a deviation, a north to south deviation that let's say that airplanes should experience, or the path of the path of an airplane. Sorry, 1 second, Neil. The path of an airplane should experience due to a globe Earth rotating underneath it. Now, the late George Netjuk and me went at it on Ranties some years ago, and he proved, without a shadow of a doubt, with maths, that it was impossible for a plane leaving London Heathrow to fly to Lagos International, which would be a due south journey, for them to have any deviation. If you, based on all the an average of all the departure and arrival times, and the average departure and arrival times of flights from London Heathrow to Lagos International, and the average airspeed, that it was that a deviation due to Earth rotation would be absolutely impossible. He did that live. He thought, I don't know what result he was expecting, but that I really believe we should hold them to that, because that is such a load of rubbish that they can't prove, but yet they'll keep on claiming it, but we're not holding them to that. We keep talking to them about the Coriolis effect, but they're not claiming the Coriolis effect. They're claiming a deviation, a north-south deviation, due to a rotating globe underneath them, which is not the Coriolis effect.
Well, the stars aren't in what? Well, the main claim is the reason the stars seem to rotate is because Earth is rotating, isn't it? Like
underneath them as a separate reference frame. Yes, that's the main claim. The claim is a claim of Coriolis effect. The claim is Earth is turning underneath the stars, therefore the stars aren't actually making that rotational movement we see. It's only apparent. Apparent because it's us on a rotating platform turning beneath. That's the claim.
But what they do is they change it. What they do is they have changed the wording around over time, and they started calling it a pseudo force when it came to Earth-based things like air travel and things like that. And then it just became the Coriolis force that causes airplanes have to deviate, but more than that, it causes hurricanes and typhoons. So they have changed it over time. If you ask them about the stars and the sun and whatever, the stars, they will say, well, the stars is only an apparent orbit or whatever, but in reality, it's like that they'd have to claim that's the Coriolis effect. But when it comes to talking about an airplane, or worse again, hurricanes, it becomes the Coriolis force. They even leave out the pseudo part. So that's where they're at. Not just the people we deal with, but even in the mainstream, that's where they're at.
So they're arguing with themselves.
Yeah, Brian's
they're making
right.
two separate claims.
No, Brian's right. This is what I've picked up through the research as well as listening to them debate. They are making two separate claims, but it's just like everything else. When the globe math and everything about the globe doesn't work out in reality, they have to change it, and this is what they've done here.
Right, but they're making two claims that are contradictory to each other.
Correct. That's the main point, isn't it? The two claims actually oppose each other.
Yeah, but then again, if you're going to lie about what you're on, you're going to have to somehow defend it. And when you go to defend it, the very thing you said it was can't be backed up. So there's that one claim out the door. Now you got another claim that doesn't even resemble that one.
I think distance to the sun's the only question we haven't had. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
There's a claim of 93 million.
Hold on. I did give you an answer. I said negative. That was like 3 questions ago.
Yeah, and then I said it's in the sky.
There's a claim that's 93 million miles away that most of the world believes.
It's in my kids' curriculum, my homeschool children, right in their curriculum. That's what it reads.
Well,
When you step
technically,
when you step outside and you're under it, it's tantamount.
technically, the only evidence for the distance to the sun is the shadows that it creates. Now, why I say that is that their sun, the heliocentric sun, has to have a much huger radius than their globe, but because of its angular size, it must be a particular distance away to have that size radius. But that all comes from them needing to explain the shadows we see in reality, how they would work on the globe. So technically, the only evidence for any distance to the sun are shadows. And I really don't know how you could get 93 million miles out of that if you just walked in reality.
But the shadows that we see, right, you'd be measuring their angle that the sunlight is coming in relative to the other ones. And you get the idea that they're parallel that way, right? By measuring their angle relative to the other shadows.
Well, no, if you look at the Eratosthenes demonstration, the whole point was that they had to claim that Eratosthenes had to pre-assume it was a globe first and that sunlight came in parallel. Otherwise, the shadows we see prove that the sun is close and local and that the Earth has to have a horizontal baseline.
But when he measured the angle, he had to use a flat plane.
Well, what choice did he have?
Why are you getting caught up in the flat plane?
Don't get hung up on that flat plane that you need angles from.
Yeah, if we could just get past the flat plane, I could explain to you how it's a globe.
Hopefully we can all assume it's a globe first, and then have the angle measurements already acquired by a third party, and have them presented with those assumptions in mind and flat Earth measurements in hand. You know, we can explain how it's a sphere.
Well, first we'll have to put it in a model of a flat plane. We'll put it in a model of a flat plane, and then we'll apply the Habersheimer formula after we've established the model.
But that flat plane model does have the word sphere in it. I mean, it's a celestial sphere model. We just won't mention the fact that the ground in that model is flat, and the sky is the bit that's being described as the celestial sphere. You know, just focus on the fact that the word sphere's in there and everyone will be golden.
Yep.
Hold on, according to Charles, don't we have to figure out what we're on first before we begin to measure it and figure out
what shape the world is? And another thing, definitely don't mention that the celestial sphere model is based off of perspective.
Hi guys. The other thing as well with that distance to the sun is, you know, if this Eratosthenes and all this came up with the radius value, and that has a detrimental effect on distances to luminaries, I mean, then you can go further down. Copernicus, who came up with the heliocentric model, he originally claimed it was 3 million miles away, the sun. And then the model changed again with Kepler, who claimed it was 12 million miles away. And then Newton, I think he said it doesn't matter if it's 28 or 54 million miles away. And then Benjamin Martin claimed another figure, and Thomas Dilworth claimed another figure. So it's constantly changed throughout the ages, depending on when they changed the model. So
yeah, that's fine. The sun can be any distance you want it to be away, as long as you measure it on a flat plane.
Yeah, and as long as you make sure that it matches its angular size, its average angular size, it can be anything you want. You know, because their universe, whatever a universe is always expanding in some way. Their story is always expanding. So if you were to start writing a story and you became more and more creative, the more writing you did, then your story, the book would end up being a lot bigger, wouldn't it? Instead of it being 30 pages, suddenly it's 300 pages. Then it's 700 pages. So the sun has to change its position relative to the globe if their heliocentric universe is becoming more complicated and bigger. You know, what choice did they have? I mean, you can.
And Brian,
you can't blame it.
As you continue to write and change, you get better and better at the story.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's your story, and I mean, you shouldn't be. I mean, it's not your fault. It's your story, and you can do what you want with it.
I like Nathan's story.
Well, all I know is thank God for the tilt, because it would be a hell of a thing to get 3 million miles closer to the sun in January when there's 7 feet of snow on the ground. So yeah, that checks out.
Yeah,
well,
when Chicago was sorry.
I was just going to say, you know, when I get too warm at a fire, I take a couple steps back and burst into flames.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't everybody? Is that not how that works?
Well,
the sun is closer to the Earth or further.
See, but if you were to tilt the other way,
then go on, Brian. You can have the last word.
I was asking if it's tilting. Where is it further away? Is it hotter during the winter or during the summer? The sun. I mean, how far?
In the
away
heliocentric nonsense model, we are closer to the sun in winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it has to warm up the Earth.
January, we're the closest to the sun in their model.
Right. And what they told me was because the Earth it's cold and the Earth has to get warmed up. That's why the sun is closer.
Of course. It's not just a necessity in their model and maths. It's because we need to get warmer. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's Gilded and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
what a name! What a lovely name!